faithfully conveying value, interpreting great books from around the world. Hello, this is Sally's Book Talk. Today, we're interpreting the book Auspicious Omens, Wang Mang and His Era, for you. The author is Zhang Shangrong, a writer on literature and history, and a PhD in literature from Renmin University of China. So, who's the biggest hypocrite in all of history? If you asked this question to ancient folks, the answer would probably be Wang Mang. Yeah, in the minds of the ancients, Wang Mang was basically synonymous with hypocrite. Eastern Han historian Ban Gu depicted Wang Mang as a conspirator in the official history, Book of Han, claiming he deliberately packaged himself as a morally lofty sage to usurp the Han throne. And once he became emperor, Wang Mang persecuted loyal officials, oppressed the people, a real traitor, and the most despicable kind. Tang Dynasty poet Bai Jui wrote a poem. When Duke of Zhou feared rumors, Wang Mang was humble before usurping. Had they died young, who'd know their true nature? It talks about the Duke of Zhou, considered a model of assisting rulers. The Duke of Zhou had rumors spread vividly about him usurping the throne, while Wang Mang was once seen as a humble gentleman but ended up seizing the Han Empire. Suppose these two had died early. Who was loyal? Who was treacherous? How could we tell? The implication is that Wang Mang was a crafty villain, good at disguise. Even Yuan Shikai, who tried to restore the monarchy in the late Qing and early Republic, was mocked as Wang Mang. Who knew that just a few years later, views on Wang Mang flipped dramatically? First, Hu Shi, a key figure in the New Culture movement, said Wang Mang was a social reformer, with measures like land nationalization, eliminating wealth gaps, and freeing slaves. From today's perspective, those were super advanced, but Han Dynasty folks couldn't grasp it, causing the reforms to fail. Another historian, Qian Mu, also believed Wang Mang's takeover wasn't for personal gain, but to achieve his lofty ideals. Too bad his ideas were way ahead of their time and he lacked the skills, so he crashed and burned. Since then, Wang Mang's image as a reformer took hold and gained more recognition. Modern scholars' reinterpretation deepened understanding of Wang Mang, but new doubts emerged. Some say Wang Mang was a scheming hypocrite who grabbed power, while others call him a reformer born at the wrong time. So, what was the real Wang Mang like? And how should we understand his so-called reforms? All these questions are clearly answered in today's book, Auspicious Omens, Wang Mang and His Era. I'll now present the book in 4 parts. Part 1, Maternal Relatives in Power, from Scholar to Grand Marshal. Part 2, The Transfer of Heavenly Mandate, the Duke who pacified Han and the acting emperor. Part 3, Confucian Reform, Building an Ideal Society. Part 4, Downfall and Disgrace, the collapse of Qin Dynasty and its intangible legacy. All right, let's begin with Part 1, Maternal Relatives in Power, from Scholar to Grand Marshal. Born in 45 BC, during Western Han's Chu Yun era, Wang Mang entered the world in Chang'an. His aunt, Wang Zhangjun, was empress to Emperor Yuan and mother to Crown Prince Lu Al. Thus, Wang Mang was born imperial in law, called maternal relatives in Han times, crucially positioned since Western Han emperors traditionally relied on such relatives. Emperor Wu promoted his maternal relatives Wei Qing and Huo Kubing to lead armies against the Xiongnu nomads. On his deathbed, he even entrusted the young crown prince to Huo Kubing's brother Huo Guan. Classic examples of maternal relatives in governance. The Wang family similarly rose through maternal connections. Under Emperor Yuan, Wang Zhengjun's brother Wan Fing served as commandant of guards and palace attendant, key security posts. After Emperor Yuan's death, Lu Ao succeeded as Emperor Cheng, elevating Wang Zhengjun to Empress Dowager. Emperor Cheng was filial, once ennobling 5 Wang relatives as marquises within the passes in a single day to please his mother. Dubbed the 5 Marquises, He appointed Wang Feng as Grand Marshal, delegating governance to this uncle while indulging in pleasures. Wang Feng exploited this to eliminate rivals and install allies, placing Wang family members in key positions throughout court. Or how powerful did Wang Feng become? Once, when Emperor Chang wanted to appoint someone as palace attendant, the emperor's personal secretary, and was about to decree it, a eunuch whispered, "We haven't consulted the Grand Marshal yet." The emperor considered it trivial, but the eunuch kowtowed, begging him to follow protocol. Wang Mang grew up in this powerful clan. Though his father and brother died early, he received excellent care and could have lived luxuriously like his peers. In modern terms, Wang Mang could have coasted to success, but he refused. Instead, he chose Confucian studies. What made this special? In Wang Mang's era, only those from humble backgrounds studied Confucianism as a stepping stone to officialdom. It was rare for maternal relatives to study Confucianism, and Wang Mang chose the obscure Book of Rites within it, making him stand out even more. People praised him, saying Wang Mang wasn't putting on a show but genuinely revered Confucianism. From then on, Wang Mang wore the scholar's cap, a plain robe, and leather belt, fully embodying the Confucian scholar look. His behavior also strictly followed Confucian norms, drawing increasing attention to him. He began to stand out among the younger generation of the royal clan. At age 24, when Grand Marshal Wang Feng fell gravely ill, Wang Mang tended at his bedside for months without rest. The Western Han dynasty claimed to rule through filial piety, valuing this virtue highly. And, with his father gone early, serving his uncle equated to fulfilling filial duty, boosting Wang Mang's reputation and deeply moving Wang Feng. On his deathbed, he entrusted Wang Mang to Wang Zhengjun, urging, "He's a rising star of the Wang family. Nurture him well." Thus, at Empress Dowager Wang Zhengjun's suggestion, Emperor Cheng appointed Wang Mang as Gentleman of the Palace, a position for noble sons allowing close access to the emperor. Wang Mang steadily rose to become cavalry commander, leading the Feather Forest Imperial Guards protecting the emperor. In 16 BC, again through Wang Zhong's suggestion, he was enfaffed as Marquis of Shindu with 1,500 households. When he later founded the Shin dynasty, the Shin came from this title. Wang Mang knew his political rise relied on filial piety, so to climb higher, he doubled down on this virtue. After his father's death, his mother lived in Chengye Palace under Wang Zhengjun's care. After becoming Marquis, he personally cared for her, a celebrated act. Once, during his eldest son's wedding, Wang Mang repeatedly excused himself to serve his mother medicine. Guests couldn't help but exclaim, "Wang Mang truly is a model of filial piety." He showed the same filial devotion not just to his mother but to all family elders. After Uncle Long Feng died, another uncle Long Zhen became Grand Marshal. When Wang Zhen fell ill, Wang Mom cared for him just as before. Wang Zhen found this deeply touching and began viewing his nephew differently. Additionally, when Wang Mang's brother died young, leaving a widow and child, he fully supported his nephew. Resting by date B. When the boy grew up, Wang Mang personally enrolled him in the Imperial Academy for top-tier education. At marriage age, he arranged the match and officiated the wedding. This embodies the Confucian concept of brotherly respect, extended to caring for his brother's descendants. This level of virtue surpasses mere brotherly respect. With his reputation for filial piety and brotherly devotion, Wang Mang gained nationwide fame. Both court and commoners saw him as the Long family's ideal successor. The next Grand Marshal must be Wang Mang, no one else. Modern folks might struggle to understand this logic. How do family virtues equal political talent? Actually, ancient belief held that filial piety meant loyalty to the emperor, and fraternal respect translated to collegial harmony. And since managing a household was seen as the foundation for governing a state, Wang Mang's rise was hardly surprising. In 8 BC, Emperor Cheng's Sui He era, Wen Zhen resigned as Grand Marshal. At age 37, Wang Mang took over, entering the power center for the first time. What awaited him? This brings us to part 2, the transfer of heavenly mandate. The duke who pacified Han and the acting emperor. Wang Mang became Grand Marshal amid high expectations. All hoped to resolve the dynasty's intensifying legitimacy crisis. This crisis stemmed from frequent disasters plaguing the Midwestern Han era. Natural calamities, early in Emperor Yuan's reign, earthquakes, plagues, floods, and famines struck consecutively. Even cannibalism occurred in some regions. Emperor Cheng's reign saw unending disasters too. In Jianxi Year 3, over 40 days of torrential rain flooded Shanxi, drowning thousands, followed by solar eclipses, earthquakes, meteors, sandstorms, and ancestral temple fires. During Emperor Cheng's rule, such omens reached unprecedented frequency. Worse yet, Emperor Cheng remained childless into his 40s. No imperial heir. In antiquity, this was considered the gravest disaster of all. To Western Han people, frequent disasters signaled profound governance failures, and Emperor Cheng indeed had vulnerabilities here. In his later years, he indulged with consorts Zhao Feiyan and Zhao Heidei, delegating governance to the Wang family. But the Wangs were mostly spoiled heirs who corrupted the administration. Thus, rumors spread of an incompetent emperor controlled by treacherous ministers. Some even claimed heaven would revoke the Han's mandate and transfer it, a theory especially popular among Confucian scholars who believed in shifting celestial favor. Simply put, if a dynasty couldn't sustain itself, it was time for regime change. In Emperor Cheng's later years, the idea of the heavenly mandate's transfer gained traction, posing a severe challenge to the Western Han dynasty's legitimacy. Wang Mang succeeded as Grand Marshal against this backdrop. As a rare talent in the Wang family, he was entrusted with high hopes of saving the Han dynasty. He himself aspired to make a difference, starting by changing the family's extravagant habits. After taking office, Wang Mang maintained his previous conduct, demanding no bribes, accepting no gifts, and his family lived frugally. Wang Mang's wife dressed plainly, so much so that visitors often mistook her for a servant at first glance. Meanwhile, Wang Mang used all his income and imperial rewards to recruit talents, preparing for reforms. Leading court affairs while funding from his own pocket, such noble actions earned widespread praise. Society's atmosphere was thus refreshed. Just as Wang Mang was about to take action, fate intervened. In the second year of Swahe, 7 BC, Emperor Cheng suddenly died, succeeded by his nephew Prince Dingtao Luxin. Luxin was adopted by Emperor Cheng the previous year, made crown prince, and later known as Emperor Ai. Emperor Ai had no blood relation to the Wang family. By convention, he would appoint his own relatives, forming a new maternal clan faction, leaving the Wang family to be swept away. Sure enough, 3 months later, Wang Mang lost his Grand Marshal position. Long family members were dismissed one by one, and only Wang Zhengjun, as Grand Empress Dowager, remained in the palace. The Long family was exiting the political stage. People felt pity for Wang Mang, but what could be done? New emperor, new ministers, that's the way it is. When Emperor Ai ascended at age 18, Wang Mang was 38. Logically, Wang Mang had no chance of a comeback. Unexpectedly, after 7 years on the throne, Emperor Ai also died. On his deathbed, he made a shocking move to abdicate the throne to his favorite minister, Dong Shan. The idea of the heavenly mandate's impending transfer, popular in Emperor Cheng's later years, was widely believed by Emperor Ai's reign, including Emperor Ai himself. He once accepted Confucian scholars' advice to hold a re-acceptance of mandate ceremony, meaning the Han dynasty once again received heaven's mandate to rule. But conditions didn't improve. Disasters persisted, leading Emperor Ai to doubt, had the Han truly lost its vitality? After reflection, Emperor Ai decided that since the mandate was destined to transfer, he might as well personally pass it to someone trustworthy. He chose his male favorite, the new Grand Marshal Dong Xian, faithfully conveying value, interpreting great books from around the world. Hello, this is Sally's Book Talk. Today, we're interpreting the book Auspicious Omens, Wang Mang and His Era, for you. The author is Zhang Xiangrong, a writer on literature and history and a PhD in literature from Renmin University of China. So, who's the biggest hypocrite in all of history? If you asked this question to ancient folks, the answer would probably be Wang Mang. Yeah, in the minds of the ancients, Wang Mang was basically synonymous with hypocrite. Eastern Han historian Ban Gu depicted Wang Mang as a conspirator in the official history Book of Han, claiming he deliberately packaged himself as a morally lofty sage to usurp the Han throne. And once he became emperor, Wang Mang persecuted loyal officials, oppressed the people, a real traitor and the most despicable kind. Tang dynasty poet Bai Jui wrote a poem. When Duke of Zhou feared rumors, Wang Mang was humble before usurping. Had they died young, who'd know their true nature? It talks about the Duke of Zhou, considered a model of assisting rulers. The Duke of Zhou had rumors spread vividly about him usurping the throne, while Wang Mang was once seen as a humble gentleman, but ended up seizing the Han Empire. 1. Suppose these two had died early. Who was loyal? Who was treacherous? How could we tell? The implication is that Wang Mang was a crafty villain, good at disguise. Even Yuan Shikai, who tried to restore the monarchy in the late Qing and early Republic, was mocked as Wang Mang. Who knew that just a few years later, views on Wang Mang flipped dramatically? First, Hu Shi, a key figure in the New Culture movement, said Wang Mang was a social reformer, with measures like land nationalization, eliminating wealth gaps, and freeing slaves. From today's perspective, those were super advanced, but Han Dynasty folks couldn't grasp it, causing the reforms to fail. Another historian, Qian Mu, also believed Wang Mang's takeover wasn't for personal gain, but to achieve his lofty ideals. Too bad his ideas were way ahead of their time, and he lacked the skills, so he crashed and burned. Since then, Mang's image as a reformer took hold and gained more recognition. Modern scholars' reinterpretation deepened understanding of Wang Mang, but new doubts emerged. Some say Wang Mang was a scheming hypocrite who grabbed power, while others call him a reformer born at the wrong time. So, what was the real Wang Mang like? And how should we understand his so-called reforms? Modern folks might struggle to understand this logic. How do family virtues equal political talent? Actually, ancient belief held that filial piety meant loyalty to the emperor, and fraternal respect translated to collegial harmony. And since managing a household was seen as the foundation for governing a state, Wang Mang's rise was hardly surprising. In 8 BC, Emperor Cheng's Sui-he era, Wang Zhen resigned as Grand Marshal. At age 37, Wang Mang took over, entering the power center. What awaited him? This brings us to part 2. The transfer of heavenly mandate. The Duke who pacified Han and the acting emperor. Wang Mang became Grand Marshal amid high expectations. All hoped he'd resolve the dynasty's intensifying legitimacy crisis. This crisis stemmed from frequent disasters plaguing the Midwestern Han era. Natural calamities. Early in Emperor Yuan's reign, earthquakes, plagues, floods, and famines struck consecutively. Even cannibalism occurred in some regions. Emperor Cheng's reign saw unending disasters too. In Jianxi Year 3, over 40 days of torrential rain flooded Shanxi, drowning thousands, followed by solar eclipses, earthquakes, meteors, sandstorms, and ancestral temple fires. During Emperor Cheng's rule, such omens reached unprecedented frequency. Worse yet, Emperor Cheng remained childless into his 40s, no imperial heir. In antiquity, this was considered the gravest disaster of all. To Western Han people, frequent disasters signaled profound governance failures. And Emperor Cheng indeed had vulnerabilities here. In his later years, he indulged with consorts, Zhao Feiyan and Zhao Hede, delegating governance to the Wang family. But the Wangs were mostly spoiled heirs who corrupted the administration. Thus, rumors spread of an incompetent emperor controlled by treacherous ministers. Some even claimed heaven would revoke the Han's mandate and transfer it, a theory especially popular among Confucian scholars who believed in shifting celestial favor. Simply put, if a dynasty couldn't sustain itself, it was time for regime change. In Emperor Cheng's later years, the idea of the heavenly mandate's transfer gained traction, posing a severe challenge to the Western Han dynasty's legitimacy. Wang Mang succeeded as Grand Marshal against this backdrop. As a rare talent in the Wang family, he was entrusted with saving the Han dynasty. He himself aspired to make a difference, starting by reforming the family's extravagance. After taking office, Wang Mang maintained his previous conduct, demanding no bribes, accepting no gifts, and his family lived frugally. Wang Mang's wife dressed plainly, so much so that visitors often mistook her for a servant at first glance. Meanwhile, Wang Mang used all his income and imperial rewards to recruit talents, preparing for reforms. Leading court affairs while funding from his own pocket, such noble actions earned widespread praise. Society's atmosphere was thus refreshed. Just as Wang Mang was about to take action, fate intervened. In the second year of Sui He, 7 BC, Emperor Cheng suddenly died, succeeded by his nephew, Prince Dingtao Luixin. Liu Xin was adopted by Emperor Cheng the previous year, made crown prince, and later known as Emperor Ai. Emperor Ai had no blood relation to the Wang family. By convention, he would appoint his own relatives, forming a new maternal clan faction, leaving the Wang family to be swept away. Sure enough, 3 months later, Wang Mang lost his Grand Marshal position. Wang family members were dismissed, and only Wang Zhengjun, as Grand Empress Dowager, remained. The Wangs were exiting politics. People felt pity for Wang Mang, but what could be done? New emperor, new ministers, that's the way it is. Emperor Ai ascended at 18. Wang Mang was 38. Logically, Wang Mang had no comeback chance. Unexpectedly, after 7 years, Emperor Ai died too. On his deathbed, he shocked all by trying to abdicate to his favorite minister Deng Xian. The idea of heaven's mandate transfer, popular late in Emperor Cheng's reign, was widely believed by Emperor Ai's time. He'd held a reacceptance ceremony to reaffirm heaven's favor, but disasters persisted, making him doubt. Had Han truly lost its vitality? After reflection, Emperor Ai decided, since the mandate must transfer, he'd personally pass it to someone trustworthy. He chose his male favorite, the new Grand Marshal Dongshan. Emperor Ai planned to groom Dongshan slowly, transferring power once he gained political maturity.
But one night, Emperor Ai suddenly fell ill. Dying, he handed the imperial seal and sash to Deng Xian. News reached Wang Zhengjun immediately.
She summoned Wang Mang to the palace to strategize. Fortunately, Emperor Ai died abruptly, leaving no will, and Deng Xian lacked political experience. This gave the Wang family a chance to turn the tables. Wang Zhengjun first, as Grand Empress Dowager, stripped Deng Xian of his Grand Marshal title and gave it to Wang Mang. She then placed Deng Xian under house arrest, forcing him to commit suicide in fear. This had 2 meanings. First, the Wang family returned to the power center. Afterward, Wang Mang selected Liu Jizi, the 19-year-old prince of Zhongshan and nephew of Emperor Cheng, as emperor according to succession rules. He became Emperor Peng. Wang Mang also announced publicly that Liu Jizi inherited the throne from Emperor Cheng and would worship Chen rather than Ai. This move ensured the Wangs, as Emperor Cheng's in-laws, could legitimately remain at court assisting the new ruler. Thus began the era of Grand Empress Dowager Wang Zhengjun, ruling behind the screen, and Grand Marshal Wang Mang governing. The second meaning of Deng Xian's execution was the Wang's self-rehabilitation. As mentioned earlier, disasters since Emperor Cheng's time were blamed on incompetent emperors and treacherous ministers. When the Wangs governed, they were the treacherous ministers. But after Emperor Ai took power, and the Wangs fell, they were no longer responsible for disasters. So look at this. After regaining power, Wang purged his own family, expelling the notorious Marquis Hongyang Wangli and defiant Marquis Ping'e Wang Ren from Chang'an. Thus, the Wangs weren't just cleared as disaster causes, they became heroes for executing Deng Xian and saving the Han dynasty. By Han belief, just as chaos brought disasters, proper governance should bring auspicious signs. In spring of AD 1, Emperor Ping's Yuanqi era, Sichuan officials presented a white pheasant and 2 black pheasants from local tribes. Peasants were seen as divine birds akin to phoenixes in Han culture. Records showed such tributes last occurred a millennium earlier in the Zhou dynasty, to the Duke of Zhou. The parallels were striking. The Duke assisted young King Chang. Mang guided young Emperor Ping. The Duke quelled rebellions. Mang eliminated Dong Shan. Both were celebrated for virtue. Clearly, Wang Mang was the Duke of Zhou reborn. Astute officials petitioned Wang Zhengjun to grant Wang Mang an honorific title. Ministers echoed the proposal, naming him Duke who pacifies Han. Amid public appeals, Wang Zhengjun even awarded Wang Mang Xiaohei's former residence, equating him with the founding Han prime minister. If pheasants symbolized Wang Mang's service to Han, the next omen carried a different flavor. In the second year of Yuanqi, Sichuan officials reported a yellow dragon in the river. While dragons are auspicious omens, a yellow one inevitably sparks associations. What associations? The theory of 5 virtues cycle, a political doctrine combining mandate of heaven transfer with the 5 elements philosophy. This was extremely popular among Confucian scholars in late Western Han. Wang Ming's friend Lu Xin, a renowned Confucian, championed this theory. According to Lu Xin, each dynasty corresponds to one of the 5 virtues. Their cyclical succession dictates dynastic changes. This has been the natural order since antiquity. For example, the Zhou belonged to wood virtue, descended from Fuqi and revered green. The Han succeeded Zhou as descendants of Yao, belonged to fire virtue, and revered red. Thus, the next dynasty would belong to earth virtue, descend from Shan, and revere yellow. Hey, wasn't that Sichuan dragon exactly yellow? Coincidentally, the Wang family claimed descent from Shun. According to the 5 virtues theory, they would receive the mandate from the Lu imperial clan. Wang Ming likely began considering replacing the Han around this time, though not yet certain. As a devout Confucian, Wang Mang knew he must meet the sage ruler's standard to prove the mandate's transfer. How? First, he enfaffed 36 distant descendants of Emperor Xuan as marquises and allowed childless nobles to adopt heirs to continue lineages. Called reviving the extinct and continuing severed lines, Confucians considered this supremely virtuous. Meanwhile, Wang Mang established rites in music, creating ceremonial regulations and official music per Confucian doctrine. Even legendary structures like Mingtong and Biang, used for imperial decrees and heaven worship, were built with scholar Lu Xin's help. Wang Mang also required name changes per calendar. 2 character names became single character. Emperor Ping Lu Jizi became Lu Kan. Though seemingly absurd, this fulfilled Confucian scholars' demands, winning their support. He implemented benevolent governance too. When Shandong suffered drought and locusts in Yuanqi Year 2, Wang Mang waived taxes and personally donated funds and land for relief. Officials followed his example. Wang Mang established ever-full granaries for poor families, converted imperial pastures to farmland for public use. He also ordered the release of all female prisoners, plus males over 80 or under 7. This series of measures boosted Wang Mang's reputation ever higher. His confidence grew stronger as well. To verify his governance achievements, Wang Mang sent envoys nationwide who reported, "No thieves in cities, no famine in villages, honest merchants, courteous people, and countless auspicious signs." Everyone praised the emergence of a sage. Even the 4 barbarians, nomadic tribes around Han, submitted, greatly encouraging Wang Mang. Yet Wang Mang remained cautious. Without ironclad proof, he wouldn't risk anything. Then, the 14-year-old Emperor Ping died, the third consecutive emperor without an heir, shocking the court and confirming Han's mandate was exhausted. And
Only then did Wang Mang firmly believe he was heaven's chosen son.
he selected 3-year-old Liu Ying as successor but delayed ancestral worship ceremonies. By protocol, Liu Ying wasn't emperor but crown prince. Wang Mang conducted ceremonies as acting emperor amid ministers. The title acting meant Wang Mang governed as de facto ruler. He then upgraded to interim emperor, just one step from true emperor. Sporadic Liu clan uprisings were quickly suppressed, strengthening Wang Mang's belief in his mandate. Most clan members accepted this, even praising publicly, unashamed since Wang's theorist Liu Xin was imperial kin. Thus, Wang Mang's enthronement became the universal expectation. So when and how would he take that final step? Part 3. Confucian Reform, Building an Ideal Society. I'll now recount this process. In Wang Mang's era, dynastic change had two models. First, Tang Wu Revolution, tyrants like Ji of Sha overthrown by Tang of Shang, Zhou of Shang by Wu of Zhou. But Han differed. It lost heaven's favor without a tyrant. Thus, the Tang Wu model didn't apply. Wang Mang chose abdication instead. Legend held that ancient Yao passed the throne to Shun and Shun to Yu. This aligned with Confucian ideals, but abdication required the last emperor to cede power to the new founder. This seemed logical, but the Han dynasty currently had no emperor, only Crown Prince Liu Ying. What to do?
A man named A.I. Zhang proposed a brilliant solution. He claimed divine revelation, stating, Emperor Gao Zu accepts heaven's mandate to transfer the empire to the new emperor, meaning Liu Bang passed sovereignty to Long Mang's new dynasty.
You might find it absurd that Liu Ying was excluded. Liu Bang had been dead for 200 years. How could this happen? But to Han people, the dead existed as spirits in another realm. Ancestral manifestations were common. Wang Mang embraced this narrative, elevating Ai Zhang to high office. Of course, transitions require caution. The last abdication was millennia ago, with no clear protocol. Wang Mang ensured each step was flawless to avoid appearing a usurping minister. He first received the mandate at Gaozu's temple, then held a ritual where an official abdicated in Liu Bang's name. Wang Mang then proclaimed the new dynasty, Xin, with the era name Beginning of Foundation, richly symbolic. It signified the dawn of the new dynasty. This year marked its creation and the start of its calendar. Henceforth, year 2, 3, 4 of Beginning of Foundation, enduring eternally. On January 15th AD 9, New Year's Day of Beginning of Foundation Year 1, the Xin dynasty was founded. That day, Wang Mang led officials to Riyang Palace, escorted Liu Ying from the throne, and ascended himself. He became Xin's founding emperor. The 80-year-old Wang Zhongjun was honored as Grand Empress Dowager. Having served 4 Han emperors, Wang Zhongjun never imagined ending as Xin's matriarch. In her final years, she called herself Han's widow and insisted on burial with Emperor Yuan. For Wang Mang, the urgent task was managing the Liu clan, over 100,000 descendants after 200-plus years of Han rule. He decreed, Liu kings demoted to dukes, regional governors dismissed, their rank slashed from 2,000 to 600 bushels. This largely neutralized the Liu threat. Of course, Wang Mang didn't exterminate them. He declared, My throne came from Liu Bang's spirit. This debt must never be forgotten. Thus, he enfeoffed Liu Ying as Duke of Stability, permitting Han imperial worship without requiring submission to Xin. Wang Mang's daughter, formerly Empress to Emperor Ping, was now titled Empress Dowager of Anding, maintaining her identity as a Han daughter-in-law. Traditional historians dismissed Wang Mang's actions as grandstanding for empty prestige. Objectively speaking, dynastic transitions typically overflowed with bloodshed and slaughter. Rarely did former dynasties receive such leniency. While resettling the Liu clan, Wang Mang established his administration. 4 pillars for inner court decisions: 3 excellencies for outer court affairs, and 4 generals managed civil and military affairs, totaling 11 central officials. Wang Mang most valued Lu Xun as imperial tutor, often discussing late into the night. They agreed Han's mandate faded due to Confucian abandonment. Xin must correct this through reform. Where to begin? The land system. During late Western Han, land monopolization worsened severely. Elites seized fertile lands, amassed wealth, became powerful magnates threatening the court. Meanwhile, peasants lost lands, becoming slaves or refugees, fueling social instability. Emperor Ai attempted reform, but poor planning, weak resolve, and magnate resistance doomed it. Wang Mang proved far more meticulous. With Lu Xun, he crafted the Royal Fields Decree, based on Zhou's well-field system, paired with the Dependence Decree, aiming to eradicate land monopolization. The Royal Fields Decree declared all land state-owned, though not confiscated, restricting sales to prevent monopolies. Per decree, each family could own maximum 900 new, approximately 60 hectares. Those exceeding limits must distribute surplus to kin or neighbors, ensuring equitable allocation. The Dependence Decree remained slaves as dependents, banned their trade, and granted them land rights. After decrees, not only refugees and slaves rejoiced, even elites welcomed them. This seems perplexing. The author suggests that with the mandate shift deeply accepted, society was psychologically primed for change. The enthusiastic response emboldened Wang Mang to deepen reforms. To Wang Mang, worsening wealth disparity had land monopolies as symptoms. Commerce was the root cause. Because commerce was more profitable than farming, speculators flocked to trade, then used profits to buy land. So the root cause must be addressed. To curb land monopolization, commerce must be restricted. 2 measures. First, implement state monopolies on high-profit essentials like wine, iron, and salt, banning private trade. But wait! Emperor Wu's salt-iron monopolies were condemned by Confucians as profit-grabbing tyranny. Why would Confucian Wang Mang backtrack? Imperial tutor Lu Xun explained. Confucianism opposes profit-seeking, not statecraft itself. Emperor Wu monopolized to fund wars. Xin aims to narrow wealth gaps and redistribute profits, benefiting all. Additionally, all commerce, fishing, hunting, weaving, sericulture faced 10% profit taxes. Wang Mang's goal: make trade unprofitable, redirecting people to farming. The second measure struck deeper. Wang Mang targeted currency itself, launching chaotic coinage reforms that bewildered everyone. The core: swap high-metal coins for low-metal ones, devaluing money. Wealthy elites suffered catastrophic losses. To Wang Mang, this created fairer society. Wang Mang and his scholars swelled with pride. These Zhou ritual-inspired policies would build their Confucian utopia. Yet reality proved brutal. Reforms collapsed one after another. The Royal Fields Decree required land surveys, impossible nationwide in under 2 to 3 years. How to ensure fairness amid tangled interests? Currency reform backfired. While elites lost, the poor gained nothing. Worse, the poor resented new taxes on small trades, turning both rich and poor against the court.
Reforms were too rushed. Social turbulence erupted as people struggled to adapt.
For a Book of Han, Long Mang Chronicle, reforms caused mass unemployment and economic collapse, with citizens weeping roadside. This marked his loss of popular support. The author disagrees, as reforms like the Royal Fields Decree and currency changes were soon abolished, yet Xin dynasty lasted over a decade. This suggests reforms weren't the primary cause of collapse. What was? Part 4. Downfall and Disgrace. The Collapse of Xin dynasty and its intangible legacy. Few imagined Xin's downfall came from a bizarre war with the Xiongnu, sparked by Wang Mang's obsession. Midwestern Han saw Xiongnu split. Northern faded, southern allied with Han. Emperor Yuan married Wang Zhaojun to southern leader Hu Hanye, establishing kinship and peace. Thus Xin began an external peace, until Wang Mang's action froze relations. He tried replacing the Xinu leader's imperial seal, Ingao, with a Xin stamp, Inchound. The difference?
One word, worlds apart in meaning.
Han's seal implied equal status, no Han character, showing Xiongnu wasn't a vassal. Han treated Xiongnu as a brother nation. Mang vehemently disagreed. Confucian doctrine held central kingdoms were Gentum, 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 Gentum.
How could a son of heaven call barbarian chiefs brothers? Outrageous!
Thus he downgraded the seal to a stamp engraved with Shin, marking Xiongnu as Shin's vassal. Current leader Wu Zhiliu, Hahanye-san, fumed. You change dynasties and demote me? Absurd! He only accepted after Wang Mang bribed him with gold. But Wang Mang then forbade Xiongnu from influencing neighboring tribes, claiming all barbarians were Shin subjects. This challenged Xiongnu's steppe dominance. Enraging Wu Zhiliu, deployed 10,000 cavalry to Shin's northern border in protest. By year-end of beginning of Foundation Year 1, Shin faced a border crisis just 1 year after founding. Wang Mang saw opportunity. He renamed Wu Zhiliu surrendered slave submissive, a mortal insult branding him a traitor. On one hand, troops were mobilized across a 1,700-kilometer front from modern Beijing's Changping through Hebei and Inner Mongolia to Zhangye and Gansu. Wang Mang planned to gather 300,000 troops with 300 days of rations, divide them into 10 routes to eliminate Chanyu Wuzliu, then install 15 puppet Chanyus across the steppes for divide and rule. Wang Mang underestimated this. Given era's logistics, such mobilization required immense time and resources.
Soldiers, supply officers, and messengers flooded post roads. Idle early troops, starving with no battles, harassed locals, forcing civilians to flee as refugees or bandits. Wang Mang sent envoys to restore order.
Instead, they colluded with garrisons to exploit villagers, worsening civilian burdens. After finally assembling forces, Wang Mang hesitated, truthfully uncertain about fighting Xiongnu. He tried coaxing surrender through diplomacy, but refused equal treatment, causing repeated deadlocks. Thus, offensive plans delayed repeatedly, dragging on for 10 years. During this decade, Xiongnu raided Xin while Xin remained passive, a strange war without battles that drained Xin's strength. After Western Han's decades of recovery, Xin began with full treasuries and fed populace, a rare golden age. Wang Mang's actions quickly strained finances. To fund war, he imposed a 3.3% wealth tax, demanding 1/30th of property. For cavalry, he ordered all officials above 200 Dan rank to raise horses. He recruited death row convicts and vagrants as cannon fodder shock troops, all measures tormenting civilians. Officials complained bitterly. Then disaster struck. Year 3 brought nationwide locust plagues. Year 4, crimson clouds rose southeast of Chang'an. Year 5, a comet streaked across the sky for 20-plus days, all seen as dire omens. Wang Mang realized in horror the disasters plaguing late Han were now haunting Xin. Was heaven's mandate shifting again? He urgently took measures, first changing the era name. After beginning of Foundation, he added Heavenly Phoenix, specifically referencing that comet. Wang Mang went to great lengths to interpret the disastrous comet as a phoenix. Yet solar eclipses, earthquakes, blizzards, and famines kept coming. Soon after changing the era name to Beginning of Foundation Terrestrial Sovereign, gales in Chang'an collapsed a palace. After study, Wang Mang concluded appointing his fourth son Wang Lin as heir violated heaven's will, so he deposed him. Learning this, Wang Lin rebelled but failed, then committed suicide with his wife. Since Wang Lin's wife was imperial tutor Lu Xin's daughter, Lu Xin was purged too. A mere gust had triggered a political storm, shattering Wang Mang's court, and a greater tempest approached, still of his own making. Facing worsening chaos, Wang Mang reflected. He concluded the problem was mismatched names and realities. Han had become Xin, yet official titles and place names remained unchanged. As Confucius said, if names aren't correct, speech doesn't flow. How could the state function with outdated names? So Wang Mang renamed all positions and regions according to Zhou rituals. Officials, duties, salaries, and regional boundaries were overhauled to match names with functions. This amounted to restructuring the entire bureaucracy. Perhaps necessary, but terribly timed. With northern armies draining resources and terrorizing civilians, desperate people fled en masse. Refugee waves surged east of Luoyang. The administrative overhaul crippled regional control, letting refugees organize into armed groups. Two largest factions emerged, Red Eyebrows from Shandong and Green Woodsmen from Hubei. The mobile Red Eyebrows guerrillas seized eastern territories. But the Green Woodsmen posed the greater threat. When Lu clan members Lu Xuan and Lu Shu took command, they raised the banner of Han restoration. This powerfully resonated with Wang Mang's suffering subjects. More people joined, nostalgic for Han's former stability. In AD 23, year 4 of beginning of Foundation Terrestrial Sovereign, Lu Xuan enthroned himself as Gengshi Emperor in Henan. Gengshi, meaning new beginning, heralding Han's mandate return. The Han family's Green Woodsman army advanced toward Chang'an, while the Qin dynasty army retreated step by step. Wang Mang then fell into confusion and despair. What confused him was that, since ascending the throne, he had been governing the country based on Confucian blueprints. Why did it get more chaotic the more he governed? What made him despair was that, at this point, he was betrayed and abandoned by all, with no solutions left. With the fall of Chang'an, Wang Mang, at age 68, was killed, and the Qin dynasty, which had existed for 14 years, was completely destroyed. Later historians, out of prejudice, refused to recognize the Qin dynasty as a legitimate dynasty, viewing it as a detour between the Western and Eastern Han dynasties. Wang Mang was portrayed as a hypocrite who betrayed Confucianism and usurped the throne through conspiracy. However, through the author's analysis, we find that Wang Mang was by no means a traitor to Confucianism. On the contrary, he believed in it too much, to the point of inflexibility. He knew full well that confronting the Xiongnu was harmful to the country and people, but to uphold the Confucian world order, he stubbornly persisted for 10 years, until the country collapsed. And he firmly believed he was right. When the Green Woodsman army was at his doorstep, he imitated Confucius, saying to those around him, "Heaven endowed me with virtue. What can Han soldiers do to me?" Meaning that my virtue is bestowed by heaven, and Han soldiers cannot harm me. That said, Wang Meng's confidence was not without basis. In fact, when the Qin dynasty fell, there were people who voluntarily died with him, showing that Wang Mang truly inspired a group of followers. More importantly, rulers of subsequent dynasties secretly learned many things from Wang Mang. They just didn't admit it. This can be analyzed from 3 dimensions: short-term, medium-term, and long-term. First, let's discuss the short-term legacy. After Wang Mang's death, warlords vied for power, and ultimately Lu Shu emerged victorious, establishing the Eastern Han dynasty. On the surface, the Eastern Han succeeded the Western Han, but in reality, it was built upon the Qin dynasty, bearing strong characteristics of Wang Mang. For example, Wang Mang believed in the mandate of heaven, and so did Liu Shu, who further mystified Confucian doctrine to justify his legitimacy. Lu Shu also largely copied the ritual, music, and sacrificial systems established by Wang Mang, so the Eastern Han was largely a continuation of the Qin dynasty, only discarding unpopular measures. Next, the medium-term legacy refers to establishing the model of abdication. Before Wang Mang, abdication was just an ancient legend. No one had witnessed it firsthand. Wang Mang was the first to practice it. He first received the title Duke who pacifies Han, then was granted the 9 bestowals, which were 9 precious ritual objects. He then held a grand abdication ceremony to worship heaven and earth, thereby achieving a legitimate transfer of power. This practice became a fixed procedure. imitated by later generations. For over 360 years, during the Wei Jin and Northern Southern dynasties, abdication became the primary model for regime change. Though abdication hid political conspiracies, it caused far less public harm than warfare. This might even be considered Wang Mang's virtue. Finally, the long-term legacy, the transformation of Confucianism. The author notes Xin's collapse marked the decline of Confucian thought that used cosmic portents and disasters to restrain emperors or justify dynastic change. From then on, Confucianism became mere ornamentation for imperial power, losing courage for political reform and ability to tame emperors. Thus, Wang Mang's failed reforms cemented ancient China's political trajectory, an imperial system enduring 2,000 years. Good auspicious omens. That concludes our interpretation of Wang Mang and his era. Reading notes are below the audio. See you next time.